Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld podcast. Tonight, we are live. We will be discussing all the latest Star Wars news. There's not a lot of Star Wars news, if I'm being honest, but we'll discuss what is out there, and also, of course, looking ahead to 2026, because if you haven't noticed, there's not a lot going on right now in Star Wars. Yeah, I put the notes together this week. It was really slim pickings. There was a few things that happened today. A few things. We'll talk about it. But still, we're in a lull here. And it's got people asking, what's coming next? What are we doing? And there's some interesting stuff to talk about, not just for this year, but next year, 2026, I think is going to be a huge year for Star Wars. And so we'll get into it. But introductions are in order if you're new to the show and forgotten who we are. It can happen. My name is Ben, and joining me, as they always do. Wait, what? What? Where is everybody? What's going on? I'm the only one here. What is this madness? Yes, Matthew Hardy. Yes, Matthew Hardy in the chat. It is I, Ben Solo. I have Ben Solo, like literally. I think this might actually be the first time in the show's history where we've only had one person on the show, and it was intended to be that. Obviously, we've had some technical hiccups when people just get booted out of the call, but being just it's just me. It's just me. It's literally just me. Look, stuff happens. And look, and they've got other things. Hannah, Dom, Chris, I don't know what they're doing. What could possibly be more important to do tonight than a Star Wars podcast? What could they be doing? Plenty of things, probably, if we're being honest. But look, the show must go on. Yeah, that's how it works. The show must go on. So we're gonna do it, or I'm going to do it. Okay, here we go. I guess you know what, screw it. I think I need to. That's a little too big. I don't like that. No, that's too small. Hang on. Let's no, that's too small again. No, that's way too big. I don't like myself that big. Nope, that's not it. That'll do. That'll have to do. So yeah. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. Yes, I haven't done one of these in quite a while, all by myself. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I will just pre-warn you guys, okay? There's going to be quite a few awkward pauses because I'm by myself, okay? And I don't have anyone to talk to. I've been told there may be some special guests showing up at some point, special surprise guests, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And also that promise has been broken so many times, so I'm not betting on it. But look, there is a few things to talk about, and look, I'm gonna screw something up, okay? Just putting it out there. I'm gonna screw something up. I'm gonna say something stupid. I'm gonna trip over my words. And no one's going to be here to stop me or to correct me, okay? And I don't want you skeeting at me later telling me what went wrong, okay? I don't want to hear it, okay? If it went wrong, I probably know about it already, okay? So buckle up. It's going to be fun. We're going to make the best of this, and we're going to see what happens. Probably going to be a short show because, I mean, how long can I talk to myself? But that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though. You guys, you have the window here. I'm looking at the chat. Those of you on YouTube, maybe some of you are on Twitch, maybe some of you are on Facebook. Shout out to the 2 people that are watching on the episode 9 news page on Facebook. You know who you are. But yeah, we're just gonna thanks. And I'm gonna chat with the chat. I'm gonna chat with you guys. You guys, Andrew is gonna be my co-host tonight. Matthew Hardy is gonna be my co-host tonight. You guys will be part of the show. Obviously, super chats are always appreciated. They help keep the lights on. But if you throw something in the chat and I like it, I will try to do my best to respond. And we've got some more questions to get to too later on in the show. Like I said, prepare for me to just screw this up at any point. But here we go. Before we go any further, of course, the plugs. We gotta do the plugs. Or I keep saying we. There is no we. It's just me, and I'm going insane. No. Please check out the Star Wars Underworld Network. Joel, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, Joel. I don't know. Everyone left me. Why are you by yourself? They left. They're gone. I'm behind myself. No, I've got this. He's asking if I need a code. I've got this, okay? I swear I am a sane person and I've got this. Maybe I could have used you. I know, I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. This will work. This is going to work. Can it catch a few minutes before my show? Yeah, great to have you, Andrew. Good to have you, Andrew. But no, Joel, I've got it. I think I've got things under control. Everything under control. Situation normal. All right. Plugs. Of course, you've got Joel. Ion Cannon. I will just scream your name, Joel. I'm not gonna DM you. I'm going to scream for you, and then you will come on if I get desperate. But I'm not at the desperation stage yet. We're just gonna keep rolling. And I'm gonna actually get through the plugs without getting interrupted. Or interrupting myself. The Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tractor Beam, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. Yes, Tales. Those guys, they've been up to stuff. They've been out doing cons and stuff like that. I saw them standing around with Hayden Christensen at a real recent con. So that was pretty cool. So definitely follow them and check out what they've been doing, because I'm sure they have a lot to talk about. Andrew says, Ben, it sounds like you're trying to commit yourself. Maybe, if I'm being honest. But we'll see how it goes. All right. Join the Discord. You can find a link to it in the description down below. And yeah, we have all kinds of stuff going on. We have weekly events on Friday night. That is a lot of fun. And we're going to be doing a game night tomorrow as we're recording this on Friday. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll play some Fortnite, whatever. We'll get back to some movie nights, whatever else we'll be doing. But that's going to be a lot of fun. And see, the trick to podcasting, the secret sauce of podcasting, is that you trick your friends into doing it so that you can take a break. You can breathe, and you can also take a drink and not interrupt the conversation. But I don't have that liberty today, okay? So we'll just see how that goes. I need to take a break. If you don't see me in the chair, know that something's wrong, or know that the show continue. Hopefully my internet holds out, because that obviously doesn't have a great precedent. But the show, I don't know if I just dropped from the call. I don't know if the show, what will happen. We'll find out together. Be sure to subscribe and review on all the platforms. Of course, we're on YouTube. Some of you are watching on YouTube. Find us over there, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. If you can leave a review, because specifically a 5-star review, because some of you guys are mean. You're mean, and you leave 1 and 2-star reviews, and those aren't helpful. So leave us a 5-star review, please. And of course, follow us on the social medias at the SWU on most. I think we're at the SWU on most those. Maybe not on Facebook, one on the Blue Sky, on the Threads. Yes, we're still on that other site, but we really don't post much over there. So I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. But we're even on TikTok. I think we're still on TikTok. We really haven't posted much over there, but we're there. We're there until it gets banned again. That's another story. All right. I think this is the part where I do the news. I think. Is this, somebody remind me? Joel says you can be like Hank Hill and give a 4.5-star review. Give them something to work for. I have never watched King of the Hill, for the record. Shame me if you will. Never seen a single episode. But I know all the memes. I know all the references. So just like everything, I've seen the memes. I've seen the memes. Like I said, we'll talk about various things. Did you guys see this? Did you guys see this? This came out today. Disney and Coca-Cola are getting together on a big marketing campaign. I guess it's like a campaign, whatever else. It's called Refresh Your Galaxy. And they're going to be releasing a bunch of really cool cans and bottles of Coke and Coke Zero with Star Wars characters on them. I don't have the pictures in front of me. I can't put them on stream right now, but definitely go check our socials because that's where all they are. And there's a Darth Maul can, Ahsoka, like every character. There's like 30 or 40 of these things. It's kind of crazy. And some of them are actually exclusive. Like there's a Mando and Grogu, there's a Chewbacca and a First Order Stormtrooper that are exclusive to Disney parks, or the Disney American parks, I should say. So that's interesting, but it's just very cool. A lot of people have been drawing comparisons back to Pepsi. I think Pepsi in the 90s, maybe Phantom Menace. I remember the Phantom Menace. I remember Phantom Menace promotion, barely. I was very young, but I do remember the whole Phantom Menace thing, and I do remember the cans. I think it was Sebulba cans and Anakin cans, maybe probably a Darth Maul because everything was Darth Maul back in those days. Joel says Diet Coke erasure. I don't know. Will it be? They're just showing off the Coke and Coke Zero ones. Obviously, I think that's the most about the most they sell. Obviously, they're highest sellers. I think probably more than Diet Coke. I don't know sales figures on Coke products, but yeah, I'm curious if there'll be other ones. Like, could we get a Diet Coke or a Fanta or something? I don't know, something weird with a Jar Jar on it. There's no Jar Jar actually. That's weird. I'm sure there was a Jar Jar back in the day for the Phantom Menace line. Where's the Jar Jar cans? Come on, guys. Come on, guys. But there actually is a really cool, like they've covered a lot of characters. And yeah, so definitely I don't even drink Coke. I don't even drink like much soda, and I'm trying to think of weaselly ways I could get my hands on these cans because they look really, really cool. Matthew Hardy says, you are correct about the Pepsi cans with the characters on them. And then he says, then there was the Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC. They had those collectible character coins as a promo. Oh man, I remember, I think somewhere I have a Taco Bell toy that I got for Phantom Menace. Like I said, very young, very faint memories, but I have pretty strong memories of like, and then there's that commercial with like the Taco Bell dog and the Colonel and somebody else, and they're like on Naboo fighting with lightsaber. It's crazy. It's crazy. Do a deep dive into that. We could do a whole episode on that madness. Jeff is here. He says, getting Latin it with no E vibes from this podcast. Yes, my short-lived solo podcast. Yes, this is basically it. Basically, this is what you're getting. This is what it was. Me sounding like a Tracy person talking to myself. But glad to have you with us, Joel. Jeff and Joel. See, I always get you. If I say the word, it's just, I'm going to pick the opposite one. I'm always getting you two confused. I don't know why. My brain. It's a mess. It's a mess. Okay, so there was a couple things. Actually, I think these came out yesterday or late yesterday. But a couple things from Gareth Edwards. He was talking to Business Insider. And for one, he addressed the idea, of course, that seems to be a pretty solidly held idea on the internet that, oh, okay, well, Rogue One is the best of the Disney era, the modern era of Star Wars, which I think most people agree with. Obviously, there's a lot of outliers. I know tons of people that have Force Awakens on their top of their list. Last Jedi, even Rise of Skywalker. It has its praisers, but Rogue One seems to be the favorite. I love Rogue One. Is up there on my list. But Gareth Edwards apparently doesn't agree. He says, in response to the idea that Rogue One is the best of the Disney films, he says, I don't agree with it, but I appreciate it. I'm very grateful that people say nice things. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what, and people were commenting on this in some of our posts, what is Gareth Edwards' favorite? What is his favorite movie? Like, he was in Last Jedi. Is that his favorite? I can understand being favoritism to Last Jedi, being had a cameo, but what is it? Curious, very curious. Obviously, he's an original trilogy guy, so maybe hard to do that. But he also, I'll go back to some comments here. Matthew Hardy says the Taco Bell dog stole a droid tank in the commercial. I think I remember that. Oh God, just absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Just go down a YouTube rabbit hole if you have some time and just look up the Phantom Menace stuff. I'm sure there's some video essays and stuff like that out there too. That's just crazy. And then Joel pipes in, Rogue One tends to be the favorite, especially if you're a Star Wars fan of a certain age range. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I don't know. Is it a certain age range? I mean, obviously it makes the original trilogy people happy. And they hadn't been happy in a while at that stage. Yeah, I think, there's certain films. I think Rogue One is pretty universally. It's hard pressed. Back in 2016, it was kind of like, some people were not too hot on it. But I think in the waning years, I think it's kind of come around to be like, most people agree, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. Hot take, pretty good movie. Hi, Kenny. How's it going? Glad to have you, buddy. And Joel says, I find people younger than me tend to be sequel fans than Rogue One fans. Yeah, I mean, that's their movie, so makes sense. But Gareth Edwards did not stop there. He also talked about the idea of, making another Star Wars movie. Because once you've done Star Wars once, why not do it again? But he says no. He says, I'm very happy to move on and do my own thing. And obviously he is doing that. This is coming from press for Jurassic World Rebirth. He did the other movie that I'm forgetting the title name. See, there's nobody here to remind me of titles. The Creator, which I really bummed I missed out. I want to see that one. But obviously he is moving on and doing other things. So good for him. And I think there's also a tinge of, you can kind of paint with a broad brush of a little bit of bitterness here. I think there is that narrative of, he was kicked off the project. He was kicked off Rogue One. He didn't get to finish the movie. And he kind of saw the studio system. He saw Star Wars. He saw the sausage was made in a way. And he doesn't want to come back to it. And I think you can definitely say that. Again, I can't mute myself and cough and let somebody else talk. It's just me, okay? So if I get a coughing fit, it's just going to come out. I'm just going to mute myself, and it's going to be silence. But I mean, Gareth has also been on the record like more than once, and you could obviously say, oh, he's trying to save face, whatever else. But I think it is close to the truth in regards to he's saying like, yeah, I was there. I was never kicked off. I was along for the ride, and like if Tony Gilroy had come in and directed or reshot 60% of the movie, it would have been a Ron Howard situation where Tony Gilroy would have gotten the credit. Gareth Edwards still got that credit in the final cut. So technically speaking, he still directed a majority of the scenes. You can make arguments about what was the edit, what was going on, what was this, what was that. Obviously, there was a major overhaul that happened. But I think he was still along for the ride. And I think he just was willing to play ball. He brought a cut. Maybe Lucasfilm wasn't happy with it, and they brought in Tony Gilroy, and the rest they say is history. So, And we got Andor out of it. So Rogue One, from its inception, if you study the history of that movie, going back to that original idea from John Knoll, so many cooks in that kitchen. And I think a lot of people will say, oh, we love, Last Jedi. It's one guy's vision. Rian Johnson, he wrote, directed it, did the whole thing. And that's great. It's great when that happens. But it doesn't always happen. I think there's horror stories and there's success stories, and sometimes they sound the same. And I think there's Rogue One was a disaster because it, there was too many people working on it and it was doing so many rewrites and too many people were working on it. That could have happened if Rogue One had failed, but it didn't. I think it was a collaborative process. Everyone was open and honest about that, and they just did the movie, and it worked. So there is no one way. If there was a one good, easy way to make a movie and make it good, people would do it, but they don't, because there's not. It's very, very, very hard to make a movie. Never made one, but I know enough to know that is the case. Joel chimes in, says most blockbuster films aren't auteur driven, and by auteur I mean writer / director. Most big blockbuster movies, they're separate. I think that's it. Yeah, there's no one answer for any of this. It really just kind of comes down to what happens. And so speaking of blockbuster, big, gigantic blockbuster movies, Superman is coming. Yeah, James Gunn's Superman is just around the corner. We won't be talking about it in this show. I would love to do that. And maybe if they leave me in charge of the podcast for the foreseeable future, maybe I'll just go into that at some point when that movie releases, because I am very much looking forward to it. But David Cornswet, who I think that's how you pronounce his name. I hope I'm not butchering. David Cornswet, obviously the new actor who is playing Superman. He's been doing a lot of press. There's been a lot of premieres, a lot of stuff happening with that movie. And he has gone on record many times before to establish that he is a huge Star Wars fan. He's lobbied for a role in Star Wars. There's a video of him reciting the trench run from Star Wars, just through sound effects. The guy's a huge fan, and he went on record with IGN Brazil recently and talked about how he grew up playing games that a lot of us grew up playing, like Battlefront 2, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy. He says that his first computer game when he was 13 or 14 was Jedi Academy. So, yeah, I don't know if I've ever actually played Jedi Academy. I know I had a demo for one, but back when you could just download free demos for computer games from just random sites, back on the good old days of the internet. But it's really cool to hear him talk more about this. And I'm obviously looking forward to Superman and glad that a giant Star Wars. I'm curious, will there be a Star Wars reference in Superman? Because James Gunn's he's known to do references. He's known to do stuff. So I'm very, very, very curious about that. Being that David is, and hey, get him into Star Wars. Let him do a Star Wars. That would be cool. I think it'd be great. Of course, I think he's going to be busy. He's going to be busy with some Supermaning and some DC stuff, because the DC universe is just about to kick off. But great to hear just people talk about, it's obviously you hear those stock interviews have you seen Star Wars? You grew up with Star Wars, that kind of stuff kind of gets boring after a while. I love it when they get into the thick of it and the more obscure stuff, and to hear Superman talk about Jedi Outcast it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I think that is about it on the news. I see I just flew through that. See how that happened? Just flew through it because there's nobody else here to talk to. I'm just talking to myself. But it's quite interesting that we should go ahead and dive into some Ask the SWU questions. I'm not going to get to all of them. I feel like those of you who submitted questions, some of these are a few weeks old. You're kind of owed the full roster of hosts here. Like, thanks. I feel like I'm cheating you by just talking to myself and answering these questions. But there's one that I think ties in with what we're talking about, and specifically talks about next year, what's coming up. So we've got a question from someone named Joel Davis. I don't ever heard of him. So Joel says, what are your thoughts on the 2026 slate for Star Wars? For me, I feel like it's the first thing in a long time where there's been a really good balance of projects. We have an action-packed, faster, more intense movie in The Mandalorian and Grogu, perhaps a more slow and methodical long-form story in Ahsoka Season 2, an animated show for older kids, not necessarily adult kids, in The Maul Shadow Lord, and an anime in Ninth Jedi. That's not to mention all the books and comics that coming next year. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? So thank you for that question, Joel. And yeah, I want to jump off this because I think it's interesting how, like, this is a slow news week, okay? Our top news story this week is about Coke cans. That should give you an idea where we are in regards to Star Wars news. We had huge things for the past year, and especially the last few months. From Acolyte to Skeleton Crew to Andor, all this stuff, Star Wars Celebration, all those announcements. And now there's basically nothing going on. But there is hope on the horizon. There is a lot of stuff happening. Obviously, I think they've said that Star Wars Visions Volume 3 is coming up sometime later this year. I think the fall, maybe. So that should be interesting. That'll be cool. It's not like huge. It's not a movie. It's not like a live action TV show. It's not as big as some of the stuff we've been getting. But I think for us hardcore fans, especially those of you who really enjoyed Visions Volume 1 and 2, very exciting. But 2026, being that it I know it sounds like it's a far away, but it really isn't. It'll be here before you know it. And we're going to see what happens. Obviously, The Mandalorian Grogu is happening. As Joel said, Maul Shadow Lord is happening. Ahsoka Season 2, obviously. And then we have the Ninth Jedi series, which has me very, very excited. Star Wars Visions Presents, which could be a long-running thing, seems to be. Like they're starting with Ninth Jedi and they're doing on something else. And then not only that, but we're going to have the 10th anniversary of Rogue One. So I'm curious if that will include, a theatrical re-release. Of course, they haven't yet. I'm going to say they have not yet announced a theatrical re-release for the 10th anniversary of The Force Awakens, which I'm eagerly awaiting, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. But hasn't happened yet. So we'll see how that goes. And I think Joel and I are both kind of throwing Ahsoka in here loosely because I don't think it was officially confirmed to be coming in 2026. Obviously, they're shooting now. That's a pretty, even with a TV show, that's a pretty quick turnaround. I'm sure they can do it. I would assume, if we're getting Ahsoka Season 2 in 2026, I would expect fall to winter, maybe even December. And I say all for it. Take your time. Filoni and Rosario and crew, take all the time you need. Don't rush what is hopefully as close to perfection as possible. So it could be at the latest, I would say early 2027, I think. Possibly. But I think things, and Joel, I think you're right. I think what happened was, and I was reading Wikipedia, they said that it like popped up somewhere and said like 2026 something, and it said like season 3. I think it was on Disney Plus. They said like, oh, season 3 of Ahsoka coming in 2026. People were like, what? What is this? What's going on? They haven't confirmed season 3. What is happening? And so they quickly took it down. I think that's the last we've heard of it, but I think that's when everyone's thinking like, okay, well, they probably meant season 2, and they're probably shooting for that. But as has been evidenced and has been the kind of the status quo for Disney Plus shows, usually it's not too long before the show. I mean, if it's coming out fall next year, we may not find out till summer next year if it's going to be premiering on Disney Plus then. So, yeah, it's things. But I think it is very interesting, and it's very, let me get a question from, Matthew Hardy says, get the Book of Boba Fett treatment, premiere last day of December, the rest in January. Honestly, would not be shocked if that's the thing. Honestly, would not be shocked. That could very well things. And Joel says, TV generally is supposed to have a quicker turnaround time. Yeah, I think that's definitely the intention. Not always is, and not always should be, because as Tony Gilroy said, like, they made like Andor was like 8 Star Wars movies. Like, we can't. People are very impatient these days. There's a lot of takes around the internet being like, oh, a new season of a show comes out and then I have to wait 2 or 3 years for the next season. I'm like, and they're comparing it to like old school setups where you would have a new season premiering in the fall, finale in the spring, and then repeat the process over again. But that was low budget network TV. We're talking about high budget stuff, not just Star Wars stuff. Like, look at the Rings of Power. It's one of the most expensive TV shows ever made. Of course, we're not going to see the season 3 of that for another probably 27 or maybe 28. This stuff takes time. They've taken, 10 years to do 5 seasons of Stranger Things, because you watch it and you see the quality. Go like, yeah, it looks like it's movie quality. You can't do that with things. It's this stuff. If you want to go back to 22 episodes a season and a new season every fall, or over the Christmas break, you're going to have to accept a lot less quality. Because do you remember watching any of that stuff? I remember watching the Arrowverse and all that stuff, and I loved that stuff, but it was not top quality. Okay, it was low budget TV. It was great for the time, but it was not to the quality that we're getting with, even the DC stuff that's on Max right now, Peacemaker, for example. So yeah, just food for thought there. But getting back to 2026, I think it's gonna be a great year. Obviously, to have a Star Wars movie back in theaters, first time in almost 10 years, pretty crazy. I think that's gonna be the kicker off. And if we get Ahsoka, fine. If not, I think Maul Shadow Lord, throwing that in there, I think it's going to be fine. I think having those 2 animated series kind of things. And I agree with Joel, like the idea of a good balance of things. I think Lucasfilm and Disney have struggled with this. They've been really kind of going on limbs with things and not, I think, really truly, when Disney Plus came to be, I think Disney saw dollar signs. They're like, oh my gosh, we can print money with these things. We can get unlimited subscribers. We can do all this stuff. And just make a new Marvel or Star Wars show. Just have one pumping out every single week of the year. And just do that forever. Unlimited money. And I think what they're learning is that they've reached the oversaturation point. They've pulled back on both. Marvel was first. They had I think 1 year was like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 Marvel series in 1 year. Could have actually been more. And they've scaled that back. Right now I think we had Daredevil Born Again, and then we're having Ironheart right now. And I don't know if there's anything else coming up this year, which is a lot. And Marvel can diversify things, where Star Wars is Star Wars. And people have known Star Wars to be this special thing that happens every so often. And I sometimes push back on the idea of like Star Wars fatigue, blah, 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 blah. Just from what I've heard, from talking to people, from listening to people talk, not us weirdo fans that just eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. Obviously, if I got a new episode of Star Wars every week, I'd be happy, okay? I would be brain dead as a Star Wars creator because I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't have time to even function as a human being and do this podcast. But it would be fun. But the normal average person who just casually watches Star Wars, it's a lot to take in. And I think a lot of people, I've heard people say, they're like, oh, there's a lot going on with Star Wars. I don't even know. I can't even keep up with it. And I think that is a sign of just like, maybe slow down. Maybe pace yourself a little bit. So I'm really liking the fact that even though, yes, sitting here trying to do a Star Wars podcast, and there's not much Star Wars to talk about. But I like the fact that we're getting a break from the general public is going to forget about Star Wars for a few months. And they're just going to go back to their lives and do their thing. Watch whatever show. Watch other 10 billion shows that are out there. And then Mando and Grogu shows up. Or if it comes out first, Maul Shadow Lord. Or Ninth Jedi. Or maybe they speed up the process and Ahsoka releases in January. Doubt it. But you have this buffer zone and you have this thing. And I think 2026 as a whole is shaping up. Obviously, there will be more stuff, I think. I'm not saying they're going to pull a whole ass Star Wars live action TV show out of their butt. But, there's obviously, as Joel says, comics and books and maybe a video game, because now the license is out, they just kind of kick out video games every so often. So, it's been a bit since Outlaw. So I think we're looking forward to something else in that genre, or that medium, I should say, and maybe another animated show or something else. But I think this one movie per year, a couple of animated shows, one video game, the amount of Star Wars books and comics you can normally expect to. I think that's good. I think it's good. I think we need that. And I think even as people that, like I said, eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, we can take as much Star Wars. There's no limit to us. We can take as much Star Wars as possible. It still needs to be special. I think we need to remember that. As much as we can sit on our podcast and go like, give me more, give me more, give me more, it can get old and it can be overwhelming. And even us at some point may go like, okay, I've had enough. I'm full. I've had enough Star Wars. Feels weird to say that, but maybe I have. And right now I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of enjoying the lull right now. I can go back and watch Andor. Go back and watch Skeleton Crew. Hell, I got this. Acolyte, visual guide, studying this. And I go back and watch that show too. Because I grew up and I would watch the movies all the time. I would watch the original trilogy. I'd watch the prequels. Because there was nothing else. There was nothing new happening. It was just the old stuff. There were 6 movies. And that was it. And we were happy with that. Then the Clone Wars came along. And then that kind of threw me out of the loop of watching old stuff because, well, there was new Star Wars. And there's been new Star Wars on TV or on the big screen ever since 2008, pretty much. I don't want it to get old. I don't want them to oversaturate things. I think we need, there is that partition that we all need to keep in our minds of, ultimately we love Star Wars. We want as much as possible, but we also, all of us think in business sense of we want Star Wars to be successful so we can get more Star Wars. We want it to be financially success. That's why things like what happened with Solo, things what happened with The Acolyte. It's disappointing, not just from a storytelling perspective, but a business perspective. We understand those things are interlinked. We understand that these Star Wars stories, we love them. We think of them as stories. They are very personal to us, but they're also a product made by a corporation. And you have to accept that. You have to think about that in this. At the end of the day, 20 or 30 years from now, no one's going to talk about how Solo was a box office bomb. There'll be a footnote in a trivia contest or something. Nobody's going to think about that. It's just going to be another Star Wars movie. No one's going to care. But we also know that like that changed Star Wars history. That movie bombing as it did, it shaped the future that we are now living in. If it had been successful, we might have gotten more anthology movies. We might have gotten Boba Fett, a Star Wars story, whatever Mangold was working on, maybe something. We would have gotten things. Maybe there hadn't been that big break, barring COVID shenanigans. We might not be sitting here right now with not any Star Wars movies since 2019. Back then, we were under the impression that this is going to continue forever. We're just going to keep getting Star Wars movies. But now that's not the case. We know now we're just now getting to the point where we're like, oh, okay, Mando and Grogu. It's happening. It's for real. We're going to get back to the theater. So I'm looking forward to 2026. I'm looking forward to the break. And I hope from here on out, we can have a more balanced set of content that Disney can learn to look at Star Wars as storytelling and not as a money printing machine. And you hope that that's the case. You hope that, ultimately there is people behind the scenes. I do believe that's the case. There's plenty of people behind the scenes. They really do care about the story. They want what's best for Star Wars, telling the right story. But then there's also people, that are accountants. Their job is to make money. Disney pays millions of people every Friday. They have a lot of employees and mouths to feed. And Bob Iger's probably got to buy a new yacht or two every once in a while. So, it's, the business side is always going to be there. But you can just hope that at the end of the day, storytellers get to do what they mean to do, and the money people can be happy too. But I digress. I'm sure I'm rambling at this point. Great question, Joel. We can actually get to some of your comments. So Alex said, Alex Rosenheim, great to have you, buddy. I would rather have 25 episode seasons of Star Trek. Star Wars could do some of their series like that. And Star Trek also has adapted to this model of we're getting Strange New Worlds. We've gotten things, which are two series that I love, but they're 10, 12 episodes. I think Strange New Worlds is wrapping up with like an even shorter season. But again, it's the budget. You're going to have to be happy with not modern special effects, but maybe it needs to look more like the 1966 series. And I'm not sure. While you may be okay with that, a lot of people in the mainstream may not be okay with that. So we shall see. Joel says, do you think Maul Shadow Lord comes before Mando and Grogu as their appetizer, or afterwards, and the Mando and Grogu is weirdly the appetizer for the year? Mando and Grogu is coming in May, so that's kind of early. But they could also, Maul Shadow Lord could, they could drop that in January. It could be wrapped up before Mando and Grogu happens. So I heard someone say, perhaps an unreliable source, that it could be dropping early in the year before Mando and Grogu. So that seems to make sense. But also, it could drop in December. Who the heck knows? We won't know probably until later this year, or perhaps in the next year. Martha Matthew already confirms the Star Trek does 10 episodes. Yeah, so which I like it. It's all killer, no filler, in my opinion. They get to the point. I got very burnt out on a lot of old series that would do 22, 23 episodes, and it was just like so much filler, so much that we're trying to fill time. And I don't look back on that era with glee. I am glad that we're kind of in this era where like it feels like there's not a set number of episodes. Some series are 10, sometimes you'll get 12, like Andor. Sometimes you'll get 6 episodes. It more or less feels like the creators are guiding that and letting the story flow, and they're making the call on how many episodes it needs to be. Whatever the story calls for, that's how many episodes it's going to be. Versus you need to stretch this out over 22 episodes. Nah, that's not as appetizing to me. But there are differing opinions. So yeah. Sheesh. I've managed to fill the time, guys, and not sound crazy. How is this possible? Let's see. Let's get one out of the way from Gilster10. They've always got a good thing to say, and they say, what is the closest Grievous in canon ever got to one portrayed in the Tartakovsky series? My opinion would be the episode Grievous Intrigue. He's fine, but he's a fine line between the mustache-twirling villain Lucas one, Until We Meet Again, Kenobi, and the Jedi Hunter Tartakovsky portrayed in the series, capturing and torturing Koth as he did, and the battling Obi-Wan alongside his Magna Guards. Grievous Intrigue is one of my favorite episodes of the Clone Wars. It's great. And it is closest, I think, to that, like, even though, and fun fact, I don't think Grievous ever kills a Jedi in the entirety. Actually, he kills Nadarvev. He does kill Nadarvev. He doesn't. So one. I think there's one. Correct me if I'm wrong. He kills a lot of other people, like Joel mentions the episode Massacre. Obviously, Tartakovsky, Genndy Tartakovsky, was working under some false pretenses, I guess, in regards to what Grievous is going to be, because that episode, which is amazing. Like I have a special place in my heart. I love the micro series. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's better than Clone Wars. No, it's not. It's not better. It's not better than the Clone Wars. But it's great, and it's great for what it is. It was great for its time. But that, battle of, I forget the name of the planets, but where Ki-Adi-Mundi and all those guys go to battle him, and it's great. But it's not Grievous. It's not the Grievous that we know from the movies. It's a completely different character. And I think it was just the subtlety of George and being like, well, he's not going to be a badass. He's going to be this coward who coughs and runs away at the first sign of trouble. Not this badass who strikes fear. But ironically, Grievous Intrigue is the episode where it's like you have the Jedi around the hologram table, like him like monologuing to the Jedi, talking about how he's going to kill all these people. And, the Jedi kind of feeling that fear that I think was kind of left over from things. I don't know who wrote that episode. I don't know how involved George was in that. I know Koth was originally supposed to die in that episode, but they saved him for some reason, and then he never showed up again. So don't know what happened there. But yeah, it's definitely, I agree with Glitzer. I think it's definitely the closest we've ever gotten to like the full-fledged Grievous and Tartakovsky, and a lot of people are, I know a good friend Dan Grievous. Shout out to Dan Grievous. I mean, come on, nobody has the name Dan Grievous and isn't passionate about General Grievous. We know Dan Grievous loves his Confederacy of Independent Systems people, and I love his passion for them. And I know he's been on the record many times. Now, he probably would have loved to have seen Grievous be more ruthless, and he is. I mean, in Massacre, the episode, like he's a villain. He's wrecking house, and it's great to see him like that. I think probably a little too much. I think the being defeated by Gungans in that one episode. What was it, season 4? Maybe a bridge too far for some people. It was definitely George being like, haha, you thought this guy was badass? Here, let's get him defeated and captured by General Tarples. Which General Tarples pretty badass, but at Grievous's expense. But yeah, I think George had different ideas, and that's where you go. George is all about He was never about pleasing people, as we know, and so he did his own thing. So yeah, but I love that episode, and always we got Tales of the Empire not too long ago. I would love to see some more Grievous content. Grievous, I know we got a lot, probably a lot of play in Clone Wars. Not enough play to make him badass, but I think there's you can, we're in this era of looking at things through different lenses. I think a different storyteller could come along and look at Grievous through a different light, and he is a monster. Like, Lair of Grievous, I think that might be like the closest things in it. Like, he's very menacing, and that that's like a horror movie, like 22 minutes. It's a great episode. I think it won an award back in the day. But yeah, so more Grievous content. I know at least a few of you would back me up on that. More Grievous content. I think I'm going to lose my voice after this, because I haven't talked this much in quite some time. So I don't know. Should we keep going? I don't have anybody. I can do whatever I want. I can stay here all night if I wanted to. Not, but I thought about it. Let's see. Let's do. You know what? Let's do one more question. One more question. I know you're gonna egg me on. Joel says keep going. Let's go. Let's go. Look, I've only got so much time, guys, and I've also got so much voice. Okay, so yeah, it's just all me tonight. It's all on this thing. But let's do one more question. One more question from a Dump Truck. Yes, that is their real name, Dump Truck. On the Discord, and they say, I know the quote-unquote R-rated Star Wars discussion is a hard sell, but if they did the Mandalorian Wars in the style of the Pacific or Band of Brothers, it could work without needing to stay PG-13. What are your thoughts on this, given the Mandalorian cultural intrigue? I mean, and that was my thing with the whole R-rated thing. It's just like, you can't come into this going like, well, it needs to be bloody and guts and it needs to be R-rated. Like, you need to have a reason for that. If you're saying your Star Wars story must be R-rated because this, and this reason, because this is what's in there, if you take these things out to make it PG-13, it doesn't work. I can accept that. I think there's probably a lot of stories out there that do that. You have Andor. Andor's, season 1 was going to end with an F-bomb. Marva Andor, like, that was in there. That was as supposedly, Tony Gilroy says, that was the only note he got from Disney, that they couldn't have Marva Andor say the F-bomb. Which would actually be PG-13, technically speaking, in movie standards. You get one F-bomb per PG-13. So it would have been okay, but Disney and Lucasfilm were not on board with the idea of putting an F-bomb. They put other curse words in there, but not an F-bomb. But, I think with the R-rated stuff, there's plenty of reasons out there probably that would require an R-rated. And Mandalorians, as we've seen, there can be some pretty gnarly stuff. And I think Mandalorian was going at it, maybe went out with Jedi, stuff like that. I think the original pitch for Rogue One being this movie that was a quote-unquote war picture. It was going to be in the same style of what you're saying, like Band of Brothers or Private Ryan. But I think the end product, and maybe that's getting back to Gareth Edwards, maybe it was more gritty at the time. I don't think it was R-rated, but maybe it was more on the ground. I think Rogue One steered closer to the feel of the original films. And maybe, I don't know what, I'm just pure speculation here, but, I do wonder how far they could have taken that. And what if someone comes along and like, no, I actually do want to do Saving Private Ryan in space. And I want it to be gritty and real and realistic. And I don't want it to be dumbed down to PG-13. So if that's the case, then by all means, like, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. But it just needs to be a reason for it, I think. yeah, so who knows? I say all bets are off. I don't think anything is off limits. I think the last few years have proven that anything is possible. So who knows? I say bring it on. I say if there's a reason for it, do it. But it may not happen anytime soon. Because we're gonna, as we say, we're gonna be getting less Star Wars for the foreseeable future, and that's fine. Yes, I know. My voice is going. So I think this is the end. I think this might be actually. I know it's not about an hour. It's less hosts. So you're getting less podcasts. You're getting more me talking. So you're just getting my half, my quarter of the podcast. So that's about an hour. Makes sense, does it? Yeah. Everyone agrees? Okay, let's do it. We are out of things to discuss, okay? Like I said, I could just fire off more of these questions, but I think you guys deserve the whole team. Hopefully, they will be back. I will forewarn you guys, I believe we are going to be taking next week off for the 4th of July holidays, even though half the podcast is technically American. We're going to be taking off an American holiday, the Independence Day holiday. So, I don't think we'll be here next week. If something crazy happens, if they drop in a trailer for Ahsoka, the Mando and Grogu trailer could come at any time. It's possible. I'm not expecting it to happen, but it might. Or maybe they'll drop some more Coke cans. Could happen. And then we'll have something really juicy to talk about. But with all that said, I think we will begin to wrap this up for the evening. Thank you guys so much for putting up with this madness. This was madness. This was crazy. This is gonna be really easy to edit. I never had one audio track in a podcast to edit. It's gonna be good though. It's gonna be good though. It's really easy. Post-production is gonna be smooth. Seriously though, guys, this was an adventure all its own. Thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for listening to my rambling ravings of a lunatic who was trapped inside this box all by himself. Whose co-host just ran off and abandoned me. No, sorry. It's fine. It's fine. No, I'm totally not better. Totally not better. Totally not angry. Definitely follow us on the social media at the SWU, especially follow us on Blue Sky. Got a lot of stuff going on there. We're inching up on the followers over there. I'm posting over there. Joel's posting over there too. So you're getting more content per capita over there than any other platform. Like anything happens, it's gonna get posted there first. So just if you're not on Blue Sky, just download the app, create an account, follow the SWU, and turn notifications on. And then that's it. You don't have to follow anybody else. Just have the app just for us, because we're obviously the most important account on Blue Sky. And also, of course, there's buttons down there. There's a subscribe button. It should be. If you haven't already clicked it, click it. If you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, you can click the follow button or the like button or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. Click the share button. Share it with your grandpa or your aunt. They obviously really like to hear what we're talking about. I never do this part of the show, just to be perfectly honest with you. So I never know what to say. I never know how to actually end the show. It's really weird to do not only the intro, but the outro too. I never do this. You guys know when you hear me doing this stuff, it's weird because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm willing to admit that. I have no idea. what I'm doing. All right, guys. This has been fun. This has actually been genuinely fun. Thanks to everyone who stuck it out and stuck around. And I'm rambling now, so I'm just gonna say, we love you. We hope to see you again very, very soon. We hope you enjoyed the show. Bye. No, sorry, that's not the right things. I forgot. It's May the Force be with you. It's a wrap.